Good morning, good morning. Okay, we're going to continue with Hilchos Kashuring your kitchen. So when you go ahead and you kasher any pots or pans, you have to make sure and that before you dip it in the water, you dip it in the boiling water, you have to make sure that it's totally clean. And clean, that means of any grime, of any leftover. Anyways, between me and you should have your pots totally clean. But you should make sure that and if there's any food residue is totally cleaned off. And the reason is because number one, that food residue is going to go into it doesn't get bad taste, so it's going to go into the water and then automatically back into the pot. That's A. And number two, it's also going to make that the stuff can't come out. The minute particles under that area can't come out. So therefore, you must make sure that the stuff is totally clean before you put it in the water. Said, if you have just a stain on it, even though it says stainless steel, but if you have some sort of stain on the cutlery or the cups or whatever, then you do not have to worry about that. The stains aren't the problem. It's only if it's actually something that you can feel, like grime or some sort of real crusted on food. And again, between me and you, anyways, you should be cleaning that. In regards to what type of keli you should be using, the minhag is to go ahead and use a Pesach tikka non-chametz stick, in other words, pot, in order to kasher your Pesach stuff. B'diavad, if you went ahead and used a chametz stick pot, that's okay. However, the minhag is lechatchila to go ahead and use a Pesach stick pot. Milchiks and fleishiks don't really matter. Lechatchila, it's better, I guess, not to do both together. You shouldn't put all your cutlery and milks and milk cutlery in together. But again, as long as they were both all Eina ben Yoma, that's fine as well. But again, what I would do is I would take your Pesach pot, put in your milk stuff, take them out, put in your fleishik stuff. One more thing is things that are used usually directly over fire without a medium of water, like a frying pan and things like that. Unless you use a lot of oil when you fry, you really cannot use hagola, in other words, dipping it into water for that. For those type of things, like a frying pan, you need to go ahead and use libun, which is going to be the second method of kashuring that we're going to talk about in a second. That method of kashuring differs from hagola in that hagola, the way it goes ahead is that it brings out, you put it into boiling water, and the boiling water makes all the blias come out. The shock of the hot water or whatever makes it all come out. Libun, however, which means, I think I'm literally turning white or whatever, what it does is, it goes ahead and it burns out. It doesn't cause the little pieces to expel into the water, but rather it burns them up and it destroys the chametz or any blias in its place, whether you're doing libun from milchiks to fleishiks or whatever. So that differs from hagola, and anything that was not used with a medium of heat, you cannot use hagola for. So with a medium of water, you can't use hagola for. Therefore, a frying pan or some sort of an oven roasting pit or the griddle or all these things you cannot use libun for hagola for. You got to use libun for them. That would mean if you want to kasher your frying pan, you got to put it on the stove and then turn it upside down, so both the inside and the outside become hot enough that if you were to touch paper to it, it would spontaneously combust. That's about at 450 degrees, and that happens if you keep it on the fire for 10 minutes. Then it's probably even a lot. Then you are fine. So you have to take your frying pan, put it on the fire, and flip it over after a while until it becomes really, really hot. With libun, however, you do not need to wait 24 hours because the lumdus is, like we said, by hagala, all the blias are being expelled into the water. Now the problem is they can go right back into the pot. Therefore, we need to wait 24 hours to make that those blias, as they get expelled into the water, are batal. However, with libun, and when you cook by turning on the oven, it doesn't cause the blias to be expelled. Rather, what happens is they get burned up. So you do not need to wait 24 hours. If you want to go ahead and do libun, you can fire up your oven put it on whenever you're ready to kasher your oven. You don't have to wait 24 hours. You just put it on the self-cleaner. We'll talk about ovens in a second. But just put it on self-clean. You do not have to wait the 24 hours. And huadin, if you're going ahead and you're going to kasher your frying pan by holding it over the fire, that also does not require you to wait 24 hours. With regards to materials, we say that things like earthenware, including china and things like that, we don't kasher. That includes glass, even though technically we paskin that glass, and Sfaradim really hold this, the glass cannot become treif. Nevertheless, Ashkenazim do not kasher glass stuff. So Shilas, please feel free to call at any time, and we will be in touch. Have a great Shabbos.